start. Again, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today, we will be presenting on the program and the research that we have been involved with since 2019 until 2021. And the title of our presentation is Exploring Systemic Barriers to Economic Security of Racialized Newcomer Women and Their Overcoming Strategies. And we will be focusing on the findings from the Her Own Boss project, which had two components. One was training and mentorship, and the other component was its research that I myself was mostly involved with. Before we start the presentation, I would like to, again, I know Lisa did a great land acknowledgement, but I would also like to begin by acknowledging that me and my colleagues representing our works from the traditional and unceded territories of Musqueam, Squamish, slave people in BC, Beothuk, the Mi'kmaq, the Innu and Inuit in St. John's, and Algonquin Anishinaabe people in Ottawa. And we are grateful for the opportunity to be able to work and learn on these lands alongside the communities. As I mentioned in this presentation, we will be focusing on the findings of our research, but as well, we will have an overview on the actual training and mentorship program, which occurred across the country in the three regions of BC, Ottawa, and St. John's. Today will be just a brief presentation, but if you happen to be more interested in details of the program and the research, we are very happy to announce that we have our comprehensive report ready on the VEX website, and you can access it through the QR code that I've provided here easily. And yeah, you can download the PDF and read it on your own time. So my colleagues will be introducing themselves, but just briefly, all of us were involved in different capacities in the program, but mainly I was involved in the research component as the lead researcher in BC in year one, and lead researcher of the research project across the three regions in year two. Monika, Imeri, the lead researcher in Ottawa, Roxana, Fazli, the lead researcher in St. John's, and Serah Gazali, one of the co-managers of the Women's Economic Council in the BC region. So now I will hand it over to Serah to provide us a brief, an introduction about the program.
Thank you, Nasim, for the lovely introduction. Just want to say that I'm also a previous grad student of UBC, so I'm glad to join today and share my pedagogical perspective, but this time as a practitioner and through my work with WEC. I'm the co-manager of WEC nationally. My focus is on BC. I want to give a brief intro to our work. WEC is a national nonprofit organization, and our work is informed through collaboration with communities. We use a community economic development lens and gender-based analysis lens in all our work. So the question around self-employment for newcomers and using self-employment as a viable option for economic security for us started a while ago based on our work on the ground. Specifically, we explored this question around, I think it's between 2014 and 2015 through a couple of projects where we are building the capacity of community initiatives. We call them clusters. My involvement personally, actually, this is how I connected to WEC. I was leading the Arabic cluster. And in the Arabic cluster, we were exploring self-employment for newcomers. So we noticed a huge appetite for self-employment among the group. And then again, like we thought maybe we should start a project that's solely focused on this question. But to confirm the need, we conducted another project titled Bridging Settlement and Economic Security, and that was in 2018. Also, I was leading this project, and it was through collaboration with Burnaby Neighborhood House. It was open to different groups of newcomers. And again, like we noticed a huge appetite for self-employment, but some barriers for self-employment. So we thought like clearly we're into something here. And we wanted to explore this question further, namely, what are the barriers that newcomers are facing? And if the services provided are actually responding to their needs, and why they are going towards self-employment. So beside the checking with the community and working with them to actually assess the need early on, we did secondary research, looking at the data, literature review, and also the Canadian statistics. At the time, was the statistics of 2016. So, at the end, that's why we created the project titled Her Own Boss, which combined regular information and training session with data collection to determine the challenges and barriers that racialized newcomers often face in their self-employment journey.
Thank you, Serah. So before starting the actual presentation, I just wanted to invite those of you who are in this room to just maybe for a few seconds think about what makes an effective and inclusive entrepreneurship program for racialized newcomer women. What kind of challenges, what kind of strength are can be like in the programs that are offered to this population? What kind of challenge issues would be are available, and what kind of responses can be like provided for those challenges? Yeah. So just briefly about the kind of methodologies and methods that informed the program and its research components. As you perhaps realize by now, what HUB was a woman-only adult learning space and provided also a research components. And it was followed the attributes of feminist community-based approaches to research and learning. Through this lens, the practices in the program, as well as the research methodology, were informed by intersectionality and participatory research traditions originated in feminist community-based methodologies. As you could see in Serah's introduction on the program, the community were really involved from the onset and in the needs assessment phase, as well as its evolution throughout these years. But here, intersectionality contributed to understanding oppression or marginalization in the intersection of gender, race, age, ethnicity, and class. With this lens, we looked at the socioeconomic structures that construct racialized newcomer women's socioeconomic lives and choices in the Canadian context, of course. Secondly, through the participatory approach, the study explores ways of responding to issues and challenges faced by the community within and in consultation with the very community. Methodologically and practically, the program is also informed by the pedagogies of care realized through the learning community that it created. The interplay between these frames formed a critical feminist praxis in action that concerned with gender and economic equity and inclusivity.
The research methods and data collection tools mentioned by my colleagues earlier were guided by three main research objectives. The first objective of this study was to identify the challenges and barriers that racialized immigrant women face in attempting to set up their own business and become self-employed in Canada. The second objective was to identify the challenges and barriers that service providers, in this case, face in offering or wishing to offer self-employment programs and services to racialized immigrant women. The last but not the least objective of this community-based action research project was to recommend support, services, resources that would be assets to racialized immigrant women wishing to become self-employed. The Her Own Boss project not only created a caring and supporting space for racialized immigrant women that were wishing to embark their journeys of becoming self-employed in Canada, but also at a broader scale, the project aimed to provide recommendations to directly address the barriers faced by racialized immigrant women.
Thank you. So for our data collection, actually, we followed a mixed methods qualitative research approach with some quantitative aspects as well. And it involved intake interviews, midway and exit interviews, which were all semi-structured. And we also had observation notes from the sessions, focus groups, as well as interviews with the hub program managers. And finally, we also ran a survey with service providers who provided relevant services in each of the regions that the research took place in. So to give you a picture of the demographics of the participants, we had 104 participants in total. And while all the participants who participated in the training and mentorship part of the program were also invited to participate in the research, a few of them decided not to participate in the research. But in Ottawa, all of the program participants also engaged with the research. About 3/4 of our participants had lived in Canada between 1 to 5 years at the start of the program, and majority of them were permanent residents. And participants were from almost all around the world: Africa, the Caribbean, East Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, North America, and South America. 75% of the participants declared that they have children. And about half of the participants had some form of entrepreneurial or self-employment experiences prior to starting the program, either in Canada or in another, like home countries or in other destinations. So the majority of our participants had some form of post-secondary education, like college diplomas, undergraduate degrees, masters, and also doctoral degrees. Less than half of the participants were employed, and the remaining were either volunteering, unemployed, or caring for their family or children. And we had responses from 35 service providers across the 3 regions, 13 in Ottawa, 12 in Vancouver, and 10 in St. John's. So I'll hand it over to Roxana and Monika for the findings.
Thank you, Nasim. Based on the findings from all the 3 regions during the 2-year research, there were several reasons why participants were interested in starting their own business. According to our findings, becoming an entrepreneur was important for many participants to gain economic satisfaction. Also, some of the participants in the 3 regions expressed their interest in providing work opportunities for family members and other immigrants. Self-employment was also a strategy for many to improve their work conditions, as many occupy traditional roles such as mothers or wives in the family. Their duties to the family have hindered their capacity to work. Therefore, owning a business would allow working according to their own availabilities and capabilities. Only in one region, there were at least 6 home-based businesses that allowed mothers to attend to preschool children or their other family responsibilities. According to one of the participants, a business may enable women who are primary caregivers to take care of their family, engage in economic activity, and juggle staying home with children. In all 3 regions, some participants aim to start their own business due to past entrepreneurial experiences in their country of origin or their previous place of residence. Also, a few participants expressed their longing to develop a sense of job satisfaction by pursuing their passion and professional skills through business ownership. Participants were also motivated to meet a need in the community and fill a niche in the market through their entrepreneurial ventures. Further, in the pandemic, with pandemic causing a shift in work and daily life needs, some participants adapted their business models to respond to the community, uncovering novel niches in the local marketplace. Engaging in entrepreneurship would provide a chance to develop a sense of belonging to the community, which for some participants would be hard to gain otherwise. More broadly, entrepreneurship worked as a vehicle through which racialized newcomer women could engage with several social and economic aspects of living within their host communities, creating more channels for social and economic integrations. Participants identified barriers to employment as a motivator to start a business of their own. For some participants, these challenges were related to limited or lack of human or social capital, which included limitations in their language proficiency, professional qualifications, Canadian experience, or relevant social networks. However, according to many responses, the COVID-19 pandemic was the most commonly reported reason for their current unemployment. Participants also shared the challenges of pursuing employment in the same field or level of professional work that they had outside Canada. While inherently a barrier to an individual's socioeconomic growth, for some participants, these challenges have become a motivator or enabler. Now I turn it over to Monika to talk about challenges and barriers to self-employment.
Thank you, Roxana, for that. So prior to collecting the data, we were familiar through the literature with some of the challenges and barriers that immigrant women face as they are trying to find a job or become self-employed in Canada. These challenges and barriers have been clustered under 5 categories as identified by the literature. And as you can see in this slide, those are financing, skills and human capital, social capital, cultural and social environments, and intersecting identities. In particular, the financing challenges that hindered the participants' efforts to become self-employed were related to difficulty to obtain employment, poverty, having to provide for family, and many more. Another barrier to self-employment is related to the lack of certain skill sets and human capital. In particular, the research participants shared about devaluation of their diplomas and work experiences from home countries, language barriers, lack of digital literacy, self-doubts in personal abilities and skills, and many more. The third barrier was related to social capital. Here, the women addressed the lack of social networks and mentorship in Canada. The fourth barrier was related to the cultural and social environment. In addition to being unfamiliar with the social and entrepreneurial environment, the different laws and legal regulations made it difficult for these women to become self-employed in Canada. The fifth barrier that was very prominent in the literature was related to the challenges arising as a result of intersecting identities. This includes, but it's not limited to, having to care for children as a mother of a household, racial discrimination when attempting to access particular sources, and service providers doubting their capabilities as a business owner due to their religious affiliation or gender. The last category of challenges that was not part of the literature, but came out due to an ongoing global health crisis, were the challenges related to the COVID-19 and other health-related issues. The economic impacts of COVID-19 pandemic impacted the immigrant women's efforts towards starting or sustaining their enterprises. Next slide, please. So during the interviews and focus groups with the research participants, we heard about the challenges and barriers to self-employment, but we also wanted to learn a bit about the perspectives of service providers on these challenges. Based on their relationships with racialized newcomer women, the service providers that took part in the research identified three main challenges that immigrant women face when they attempt to connect with their services and become self-employed in Canada. The service providers highlighted barriers related to human capital, social capital, and financing, among others. Thank you. I'll give the floor to Nasim, I think.
Thank you, Monika. Yeah, following the kind of challenges that service providers realized about the kind of problems that women are facing, they also provided us with insights about the kind of challenges and also strength that they have observed about their own practice. They shared with us that 77% of service providers indicated that they were facing some kind of challenges in engaging and providing services to the racialized newcomer women. Some of those issues include lack of specialized programming to engage and facilitate service provision to racialized newcomer women who face really intersectional issues. The other one was lack of enough resources that are necessary for marketing and promoting these kinds of programs to the community and to the actual, target the actual population that we're talking about here. The next one was lack of resources to recruit or retain the staff who are either skilled or have experience or passionate about providing these services to racialized newcomer women, and also issues related to the nature of funding, which in some cases were indicated by the providers were decreasing their autonomy in programming. For example, the issue of prescriptive nature of funding, which kind of limited their options. But of course, there were strength and strategies and strong responses provided by the service providers, included benefits of working in collaboration with other organizations and service providers with kind of similar services, and also implementing promotional methods, creative promotional methods toward targeting racialized newcomer women in engaging them in the programs. And in year one of the program, 50% of service providers have also implemented and talked about implementing a kind of diversity and inclusion program in their, diversity and inclusion plan in their programs, and 77% of them have incorporated the input and ideas from the racialized newcomer women in their programming.
In this slide, I will introduce some strategies that the project participants adopted to resolve the barriers they encountered prior to and during the training sessions delivered by Her Own Boss project. Some of their strategies addressed more than one challenge. For instance, in response to the issues related to their lack of or limited skills and human capital, many of the participants considered volunteering to expand their skills and networks. Through volunteering, women could expand their knowledge of the business environment in Canada and the region. Volunteering also helped in improving their language proficiency and communication skills. Another example is regarding the support provided to and by peers at the Her Own Boss project. family, or their ethnic communities that not only helped expand knowledge of the sociocultural and business environment, but it also brought about emotional support. Project participants also engaged in various forms of formal and informal learnings towards their professional and personal development. Their learning endeavors ranged from taking part in courses within educational institutions, specialized workshops, and professional networks to performing self-studying and participating in community activities. Their formal learning efforts were mainly in English proficiency, digital literacy, and business-specific training, such as accounting. Some of them started employment in the same sector as their business area, which would give them both the opportunity to save money while acquiring expertise and professional skill in that sector. Some participants responded to issues related to their unfamiliarity with the sociocultural and business environment by seeking to expand their networks within the community. Also, some participants responded to issues related to their confidence and proficiency in essential skills that provide the foundation for learning all other business skills, such as improving literacy, oral communication, and digital literacy skills. They also created and used networks within the local organizations in the city. During the second year, and in response to the issues caused by COVID-19 pandemic, some participants had to consider adjusting their business plans to the new situation. For instance, some participants who were thinking of importing goods were considering items that became low stock or high demand due to the pandemic, such as face masks, or some switched to online platforms and thrived within the new situation.
Here I will be talking about the effectiveness of the Her Own Boss training sessions. So in general, participants in all the regions stated very positive experiences with the program. Particularly, the program helped them in alleviating challenges by providing several learning and development opportunities, as well as emotional empowerment, which was quite important and highlighted by them. So the Her Own Boss program also helped the participants expand business networks, as well as expand cultural and social relationships with other racialized immigrant women and others in the community. Most importantly, the participants felt that the Her Own Boss program created an accommodating and warm environment for them to enhance their soft skills and communication abilities. Based on the participants' narratives, what remained minimally challenged by the program in all three cities were the barriers related to intersecting identities and health-related variables. Next slide, please. By the end of the training sessions, approximately 30% of the participants started their own business, and this was quite an accomplishment. Many others who still struggled with challenges and barriers posed by COVID-19 made very informed choices of not starting or growing their business at the time. Instead, they decided to first secure employment with an employer, gain some experience, strengthen their business and social capital, and plan a stronger and resilient business for the future. Overall, most of the women left the training sessions feeling empowered. They felt better settled into the Canadian society with the knowledge they gained, and many of them felt ready to transition into a self-employed individual.
Sorry, Nasim. Based on the findings, we formulated the following recommendations for addressing the barriers faced by racialized newcomer women, which may be implemented in communities across Canada and by various stakeholders, such as different levels of government, service providers, and settlement agencies. The ways business services and programs are shared and communicated with racialized newcomer women can be improved by identifying their information needs, information-seeking behaviors, and preferred channels, offering interpretation services during meetings, workshops, and programs. Self-employment specific information and resources can be made available to racialized newcomer women through providing information on childcare, providing information on how to merge one's personal life and entrepreneurial life, and information on educational equivalencies. Service providers could render their services and programs more cost-effective in order to help encourage racialized newcomer women's path towards launching their own business by providing free workshops and classes for them, creating a mentorship program, providing financial support, and providing social and human support. Beyond inclusivity measures in programs, there is a significant need to remove systemic barriers. This is achievable through originating diversity and inclusion initiatives within relevant programs and services, providing information in accessible formats and language, and expanding eligibility criteria for entrepreneurial services, including more supportive entrepreneurial services and programs that are feasible, visible, and accessible to racialized newcomer women can be achievable through hiring more immigrant women, working in partnership with the community and cultural associations, funding more programs and services that support racialized newcomer women interested in self-employment. Also, similar programs to Her Own Boss may provide networking opportunities as well as having information of service providers readily available in one directory, including description of their services as well as their website, locations, phones, and emails, and finally, more personalized mentorship based on their needs. In addition, administrative and financial support for such programs would increase their capacity to serve immigrant women. Thanks, Nasim.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. So here we are like finished with the findings, presenting the findings, and these are just some areas of discussion to start the conversation part. Perhaps you would like to give us your reflections and observations regarding the motivations for starting entrepreneurship among newcomers and particularly women in Canada. Or if you had any experiences with similar programs or with this topic as a researcher, as a practitioner, or even as a participant, you would like to share your observations. And if you have any comments about this program and presentation, we would appreciate it. Yeah, so I will now just stop the recording for us to be able to start